Hello everyone and welcome back. Now, as you can tell probably by the title or wherever you found this video, that this is another collab with Natasha and we are making ghee. So I don't think there are any West Indian or like outside of Indian accounts on YouTube that made ghee. So if there are, then just leave a note in the comment section. But if not, check out this video, check out Natasha's, or vice versa if you're coming from her and you're checking out my video, which is what most of you guys are probably doing. And yes, let's get into making some ghee. Now my initial decision was to make the ghee out of cream and make the butter first, and then from the butter make the ghee. But I decided that I'll split that into two videos. One will be a butter recipe that I'll put up somewhere in the future, but right now we're going to be focusing on the ghee. So what I have here is 6 cups of unsalted butter. Kerrygold butter, by the way, works the best for this, so if you can get that wherever you are, that's the best. It makes the most authentic to homemade ghee. And then for equipment, you'll need this bowl, so you'll need a bowl afterwards. I'm going to wash this out after I'm done holding the butter in it, and I'm going to dry it, and I'm going to keep it aside for when I need it again. You'll need something to store your ghee in once it's done. Now, surprise, surprise, for me, it turns out to be a rum bottle, but you could use anything. You could use an old ghee container, you could use a can if it comes in a can, you could use any kind of washed out plastic bottle, anything that coconut oil or whatever came in. Some of the things you'll need will be a heavy bottom or an iron pot. You could use any pot, I guess, but I mean it's traditional to use the iron pot. You'll need a spoon, wooden spoon I guess could work, and you'll need a very fine strainer. If you do not have a strainer that is very fine, you can use a regular strainer with a mesh cloth or a cheesecloth, muslin, whatever, to line it, because you want to make sure you don't get any of those tiny particles of milk, which you'll see later on. So let's get into making the ghee. It's very straightforward. Now our first step is to put up a pot onto medium-high heat, and you want to keep it at a steady temperature, ranging highest, like if you have a stove with numbers on it, highest like 8, and once that's up, you can add in your butter. Now the process from here, if one is similar to making coconut, if one is familiar, sorry, with making coconut oil, it's very similar. So once you've collected that cream and once it has risen to the top of the coconut milk, you add it to your pot, you let that melt down and you simmer it, boil it, whatever. You get the oil at the end of it, so it's going to be the same thing here with the ghee. As you can probably see, my butter is starting to kind of move around a bit. It's starting to come to the boil. So now the ghee, process of making ghee is starting at this point. So it is at this point that you start to notice the bubbles coming up. It's starting to boil, and you can stir it, I guess, but very minimally. And you could already see as it's starting to bubble that froth forming. It will go away on its own. So now here we've reached that rolling boil stage. You don't need to stir it too much. I mean, if you want to, you can. That foam this is like the maximum amount of foam that you'll get. It depends, again, butter brand to butter, the amount of water content or whatever. And you'll notice that as this converts from butter to ghee, you'll notice that right now it's more like an orange juice colored, very opaque, solid colored yellow. It will turn a more clear, transparent golden color, and translucent golden color. And you'll notice that there'll be sediment forming at the bottom, and that is when you'll notice that your ghee is done. Now it's reached that point, and I really want to make it apparent now, where if you pull back the foam, you'll see that clear liquid again, and you could start to see, I guess, the milk solids floating. So until those milk solids kind of settle to the bottom, I could kind of feel it, like you'll feel them sticking to the bottom. Until that happens, you still want to have it boiling up a little bit, and then it's about another 5 minutes or 3 minutes from there, and then we're done. Now 5 minutes since that last clip, actually no, about 4 minutes, and what happened was this foam had actually went down completely, and now it has come back again. If we keep pulling it away, the liquid, the ghee itself, is actually a golden color, and if we scoop and kind of move up so we can kind of see, you could see the milk solids floating around in there, and they have reached a brownish color. So what we're going to do now is turn off the stove. Now you'll notice it's still bubbling up over there even though we've taken it off the heat. You want to leave it until it cools down to a warm temperature because you still want it to be liquid while you're transferring it from container to container. And the reason why I have this bowl here is because it'll be difficult to pour it from an iron pot straight to a funnel, a thin funnel and strainer mix. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to pour it into my bowl, and then I'll move on to bottling it. So as this has cooled down just a bit to, like, it's cold enough where if I dip my finger in it, I won't get burnt, like that. So now I'm going to go over to moving it to my bowl, and then from my bowl to my rum bottle container. And you'll notice the burnt milk solids at the bottom of the pan. They'll need to be scraped out. And yes, there's extra ghee there, but I'll do that in the second batch since there's more milk solids to deal with. Okay, so here we have it, the final ghee product. Now as you can see, some is solid and some is liquid, but then again that depends on the factors such as temperature around where you are. So here it's easily over 30 degrees outside, so inside will be reflective of that temperature. Hence some ghee will be in a solid state, some in a liquid like the bigger bottle. And from this recipe I was able to get, out of 6 cups of butter, I was able to get 4.5 cups of ghee. So it really goes to show how much, like, you don't lose plenty from the butter, but again it goes to show that if you boil down 1 cup of butter you won't get 1 cup of ghee. So that being said, I hope you try out my recipe, and I hope you also try out Natasha's recipe. There's not really many ways that you can make ghee once you get butter, and I think both of us use butter to make our ghee. So try out her recipe, see if it is any different from mine or not, and please make sure that you leave your comments below on mine and both her account on her video. And if you have any different ways of making the ghee, tell me how you do it. Thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you with another video whenever.